Theory on justice and fairness. Justice means giving each person what he or she deserves, giving each person his or her due. Justice and fairness are closely related terms that are often today used interchangeably. Justice usually has been used with reference to a standard of rightness. Fairness has also been used to refer to the ability to make judgments that are not overly general but concrete and specific to a particular case. When people differ over what they believe should be given, questions of justice or fairness inevitably arise. Most ethicists today hold the view that there would be no point in talking about justice if it were not for the conflicts of interest that are created when goods and services are scarce. The principles of justice. Equals should be treated equally and unequal inequally. Means individuals should be treated the same unless they differ in ways that are relevant to the situation in which they are involved. Example, Jack and Jill both do the same work. Then in justice, they should be paid the same wages. Then we have an injustice if Jack paid more than Jill because he is a man or he is white. It is a form of discrimination. However, we acknowledge the need, desert, contribution, and effort as justifying different treatment than are numerous. There are also criteria that we believe are not justifiable grounds for giving people different treatment. It is unjust to give individuals special treatment on the basis of age, sex, race, or their religious preferences. Moving on to the different kinds of justice. First is the distributive justice. Refers to the extent to which societies, institutions ensure that benefits and burdens are distributed among society's members in ways that fair and just. Example, the American institution of slavery in the Free Civil War South was condemned as unjust because it was a glaring case of treating people differently on the basis of race. Second, retributive or corrective justice refers to the extent to which punishments are fair and just. Punishments are held to be just to the extent that they take into account relevant criteria such as the seriousness of the crime and the intent of the criminal, and discount irrelevant criteria such as race. Example, it would be barbarously unjust or unjust to chop off a person's head for stealing a dime or to impose the death penalty on a person who by accident and without negligence injured another party. Third is the compensatory justice. Refers to the extent to which people are fairly compensated for their injuries by those who have injured them. Just compensation is proportional to the loss inflicted on a person. The foundations of justice can be traced to the notions of social stability, interdependence, and equal dignity. When some members of society come to feel that they are subject to unequal treatment, the foundations have been laid for social unrest. Whenever individuals are treated unequally on the basis of characteristics, their fundamental human dignity is violated. In ethics, we must ask whether our actions treat all persons equally, and if not, whether the difference in treatment is justified. Justice is an expression of our mutual recognition of each other's basic dignity. If we are to live together in an interdependent community, we must treat each other as equals.
Distributive justice. This kind of justice is concerned with the fair share of distribution of resources, which means that people shall be assured of the basic level of goods, equal opportunities of acquiring the goods, and they shall receive the same amount of goods in accordance to their work. Kung unsa ka bugat ang ilang trabaho, mausad ang ilang goods. That is distributive justice. The major tenets of distributive justice are equality, proportionality, and fairness. Egalitarian. Egalitarian is a political doctrine that holds that all people should be treated as equals from birth. Usually meaning held equal under the law and in society at large. It is a belief in human equality, especially with respect to social, political and economic rights and privileges, and advocates the removal of inequalities among people and of discrimination. Political philosophies such as socialism, Marxism, communism, and anarchism all support the principles of egalitarianism to some sort of degree. There are 9 types of egalitarian. The first is the economic egalitarian or the material egalitarianism, which states that all members of society are of equal standing and have equal access to all economic sources in terms of economic power, wealth, and contribution. This is the very belief that everyone should have an equal opportunity to become wealthy by investing in and supporting entrepreneurship and employment. It is a founding principle of various forms of socialism. The second type is the moral egalitarianism. This states that people should have equal fundamental value and worth and of moral status, and everyone deserves equal respect of each other. The third is legal egalitarianism. It is the principle under which each individual is subject to the same law, with no individual or group or class having special legal privileges, and where the testimony of all people is counted with the same weight. This states that we are all equal by law and we must be protected equally by law. The fourth type is political egalitarianism, where the members of society are of equal standing in terms of political power or influence. It is a founding principle of the most forms of democracy. The idea suggests that all citizens of a certain country must be treated equally, solely depending on their citizenship status, not on their race nor religion and how clever or how rich they are. The equality of society whose voluntary members are of equal standing in terms of political power or influence. The fifth is lack egalitarianism. It is a view about distributive justice espoused by a variety of left-wing political philosophers, which seeks to distinguish between outcomes that are the result of brute luck and those that are consequence of conscious options. It is to compensate people for undeserved bad luck, such as being born poor, having difficult family circumstances, or suffering from accidents and illness. The next is gender egalitarianism. It is a form of society in which power is equally shared between men and women, or a family structure which power is shared equally by both parents. This kind of egalitarian is the state of equal ease of access to resources and opportunities regardless of gender. The seventh type is racial egalitarianism. It is the absence of racial segregation. The same with gender egalitarianism. It is also the equality of power and opportunities, except that it is regardless not by gender but by race. The eighth is opportunity egalitarianism, or the asset-based egalitarianism. It is the idea that equality is possible by a redistribution of resources, usually in the form of capital grant provided at the age of majority. An idea which has been around since Thomas Paine in 1737 to 1809. People ought to be able to compete on equal terms, or on a level playing field for advantage of offices and positions. The last and the ninth type is Christian egalitarianism. It holds that all people are equal before God and in Christ, and specifically, it teaches gender equality in Christian church leadership and in marriage. Capitalist. Its theory is a system of largely private ownership that is to open new ideas, new firms, and new ownership. In short, to new capital. Capitalism's rationale to proponents and critics alike has long been recognized to be its dynamism, that is, its innovations, and more subtly, its selectiveness in the innovations it tries out. It is also known for its tendency to generate instability, often associated with the existence of financial crisis, job insecurity, and failures to include the disadvantages. It is also an economic system based on private ownership of means of production and their operation for profit. Characteristics central to it includes private property, capital accumulation, wage labor, voluntary exchange, price system, and competitive markets. The term capitalist is one who uses money to invest in trade and industry for profit in accordance with the principle of capitalism. The tenet of capital justice is that everybody should be rewarded equally to their productivity, effort, or contribution.
G. Socialist justice. It is a concept of fair and just relations between the individual and society. It is measured by the explicit and tacit terms for the distribution of wealth, opportunities for personal activity, and social privileges. Socialists take equality to be the ultimate political ideal. In the Communist Manifesto in 1848, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels maintained the abolition of bourgeois property and bourgeois family structure, which are necessary first requirement for building a society that accord with the political ideal of equality. Karl Marx added that the distribution will be the confirming the principle to which according to his her ability, to each according to his her need. Socialists propose to implement their ideal of justice by giving workers democratic control over the workplace. They believe that extending democracy at the workplace will necessarily lead to They believe that extending democracy to the workplace will necessarily lead to socialization of the means of production and the end of private property. H. State and citizens. Responsibility to each other. According to the World Economic Forum in September 2018, the Council reiterated salient responsibilities of the state in this current time. Government as a protector requires taxes to fund, train, and equip an army and a police force, to build courts and jails, and to elect or appoint officials to pass and implement the laws citizens must not break, and the ability to meet and treat with other governments as well as to find them. Government as provider. as provider of the goods and services that individuals cannot provide individually for them, is a solution to the collective action problems and social welfare state, inability of citizens to provide for themselves, like youth, old age, sickness, disability, and unemployment due to economic forces beyond their control. Government as investor is indeed education, but education cradle to grave. Under the Philippine Constitution, the role of the state to its citizens is also crucial. The state has roles to ensure prosperity among its citizens. 1. Function of the state: to defend humans' basic needs and security, to support humans' quest for natural well-being, to see the administration of justice on fair basis for all, to help in the education and cultural life of the people, and to defend and advance freedom of the citizens. 2. Responsibilities of citizens to the state: support and defend the Constitution, stay informed of the issues affecting the community, participate in the democratic process, respect and obey state rules, local news, and ordinances, respect the rights, beliefs, and opinions of others, participate in the various affairs of local community, pay income and other taxes honestly and on time to the state and local authorities, serve as reliable witness when called upon, defend the country if need should arise. 3. Principle of taxation and inclusive growth, according to Business Dictionary 2018. Taxation is people's investment to the government for return of investment through appropriate and responsive basic public services such as infrastructures, education, community service, health, and security. Taxation principles are the basic concepts by which a government is meant to be guided in designing and implementing an equitable taxation regime. 3. Principle of taxation and inclusive growth. Taxation are people's investment to the government for the return of investment through appropriate and responsive basic public services, such as infrastructures, education, community services, health, and security. Taxation principles are basic concepts by which a government is meant to be guided in designing and implementing an equitable taxation regime. Adequacy. Taxes should be just enough to generate revenue required for provision of essential public services. Broad basing. Taxes should spread over as wide as possible section of the population or sectors of economy to minimize individual tax burden. Compatibility. Taxes should be coordinated to ensure tax neutrality and overall objectives of good governance. Convenience. Taxes should be enforced in a manner that facilitates voluntary compliance to maximum extent possible. Earmarking. Tax revenue from a specific source should be dictated by a specific purpose only when there is a direct cost and benefit link between the source and the expenditure, such as use of motor fuel tax for road maintenance. Efficiency. Tax collection efforts should not cost an inordinately high percentage of tax revenue. Equity. Taxes should equally burden all individuals or entities in similar economic circumstances. Neutrality. Taxes should not favor any one group or sector over another and should not be designed or interfere with or influence individual decision making. Predictability. Collection of taxes should reinforce their indivisibility and regularity. Restricted exemptions. Tax exemptions must only be for a specific purpose, such as encourage investment, and for a limited period only. Simplicity. Tax assessment and determination should be easy to understand by an average taxpayer.